Hi, this is Miss Rodriguez. In case you missed it, um, the date is August 20th, and we talked about Christopher Columbus and the lasting impact that his landing in the Caribbean had on the Americas, but in the world in general. So Sky's warm up as usual. It is you can access it through the Clever classroom link, and so you'd see that there's a warm up here with the audio. Some other things we went over in class include that tomorrow when you come into Skies, it's going to be a reflection for what you learned in history this past week. And it has an explanation here. And then we're color coding the cards. You see that the warm-ups are yellow. Any work that we're doing, we're talking about in class together. Come up in blue. I've been inserting links to videos. They are in the slideshow for the unit, but just in case, this would be easier for you guys to access. And then I did ask, and all students have access to the Brain Pop. You would just have to go through your Clever page, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you have access to the Brain Pop videos, so you don't need a password or anything. You would just click on it, and as long as you're signed into Clever, then you would be able to access brainpop.com videos. And so that was it for, oh, actually, one more thing. You guys actually have a feature if you needed the translation. I made it so that you can translate the cards from between English and Spanish. There were a few students who said that they needed things like that, like for translation from Spanish or to Spanish, and so that is one of your other options in Skies. Okay. And you have a quiz next week, so the idea is to gather like all of the little things that we do into like one place, which is Skies. So today's big focus was the Columbian exchange, which is trade between what we call the Old World and the New World. The New World was the Americas, like North, Central, South America, the Caribbean. And the Old World was Europe, Asia, and Africa. I mean, these are regions that had been trading with each other for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so they were aware of like people in Europe were aware that, Africa, Asia, the Arabian Peninsula existed. So they call that the Old World. And in terms of your Google Classroom, the assignment that you would see on there, it does have the date, and it does say the Columbian exchange. And so when you go into your classroom, you'd see it's one of the last things that's linked into the stream. And so when you click on the assignment that says Columbian Exchange, and you notice it has the date, on the assignment document itself is a link to the video that we played during class. That's a live link. Anytime you see something in blue and underline, it's a live link. So there's the link to the video. It's just an explanation through Khan Academy of the Columbian Exchange. And then there's the link to the slideshow, which is the one that I'm projecting right now, or screen sharing right now. So one of the first questions for that assignment, it's asking you, what is the New World? I filled that one in for you as an example. And the slideshow and the video will give you all the information that you need for what is the Old World, what is the Columbian Exchange. And when it comes time to pick some things that were going from the New World or the Americas to the Old World, or from the Old World to the New World, you can choose any 4 things that are like on the map, and it shows in the video, but this is just a general map. And then on the actual assignment, if you needed to get ideas for like what to type for the assignment, these are just some of the crops that were going from like the Americas to the Old World. And then we talked about cacao specifically, how if you roast these white beans, add some milk and some sugar to it, that's what makes chocolate. We say cocoa in English. And then we talked about things that were going from the Old World, so like Europe, Africa, Asia, and were brought to the New World, the Americas. Okay. We talked about horses coming over, pigs, cows, wheat, rice. There were no bees in the Americas before. And so there's a lot of fruit that does get brought over into the Americas, like citrus fruits, oranges, lemons. There's grapes, bananas, and something that we did spend some more time talking about. Sugarcane comes from the old world, but it tends to grow a lot better in really warm climates like the Caribbean islands or Brazil. And so sugar at that time period was like in the 1400s was very expensive. Most people couldn't afford it. It just wasn't something that they had a lot of in Europe. But then they bring it to the Caribbean and to warmer regions in the Americas, and it grows really well there. It's just very labor intensive. It requires a lot of care. It requires a lot of work to extract the sugar cane. And so, sadly, one of the things that ends up happening is Europeans end up enslaving other people in order to harvest the sugar cane because it is very labor intensive. It takes a lot of work to get the sugar to grow and to harvest it. We talked about the impact of horses in the Americas. Prior to this, there were only like tiny little horses, like the size of like dogs. You can't ride that animal. So, with the introduction of horses, Native Americans become like expert horseback riders, and they use these horses to hunt, travel, and trade a lot easier than before. So, in terms of some positive effects of the Columbian exchange or this new worldwide trade, new food was being grown in the Americas. People all over the world were able to access more food than ever before. One of the crops that goes from the Americas into Europe is the potato, and it's very carb heavy, it's very calorie rich, and so you can feed a lot of people with things like potatoes. And so the population was increasing in places like Europe and Africa. And if you just think about when you go to the grocery store, or if you order something from Amazon or you go to Target, you can buy products from all over the world, including like food products from all over the world and more. Some of the negative things that was discussed in class and like in the video was the fact that Europeans were bringing diseases that killed Native Americans. Some tribes went completely extinct from the exposure to these really, really deadly diseases that Europeans were bringing over. And the diseases were traveling a lot faster than the Europeans themselves were traveling. And then the last thing that we talked about was the issue of slavery. And it is one of the major negative consequences that has a lasting impact in world history. So the Columbian exchange, another name for it is triangular trade when we're talking about slavery, at least. When the Native American population was dying out from diseases and from being enslaved by the Europeans to like grow sugar or mine gold, their population was dropping, and Europeans had to make a decision like, okay, the population in Europe was increasing. More people from Europe were immigrating to the Americas, but the work was really hard and it was a different climate. There was a different geography. So there were Europeans who they just didn't want to do the work themselves. They had a decision to make. They could have done the work themselves, but what they decide to do is they decide to take people from Africa and enslave them. They ship them across the Atlantic Ocean from the west coast of Africa, and they send them to places like what's now the southern part of the United States, the Caribbean islands, Mexico, Central America, South America, especially Brazil. And so if you've ever wondered why there's so many people of African descent here in the Americas and the Caribbean, like in the United States, Haiti, Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Brazil, Honduras, Mexico, etc., it's because African people were abducted in the 1600s and 1700s, even into the 1800s, and they were taken across the Atlantic Ocean by European slave traders in order to force them to grow things in the Americas, to do the work for them. So that is definitely one of the biggest negative consequences that happens. And so once you go through the slideshow, listen to the video, that's basically the entire assignment, and you'd finish that off and submit it on Google Classroom.